Hello and welcome to the Amherst Conservation Commission meeting. It is June 25th, 2025. The time is 7:04. We have members present, Andre, Rachel, Bruce, and myself, and missing is Laura and Alex for the time being, and Jason.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm sorry. Jason did message me, and I believe he's not going to be here. Sorry,
okay,
I forgot about that.
okay.
Yep.
All right, so first up, chair's report. So I just want to remind everyone that we have a special meeting on July 30th, so a month from now at 7 p.m. to discuss the rules and regulations specifically for hunting. So just a reminder to please read the materials so we can make progress on this. So we're gonna keep it under 2 hours, hopefully. And since it's an additional night meeting, hopefully we can do it in an hour and a half, but we can only do that if everyone comes having read all of our materials. Um, let's see. Okay. Yeah, I was hoping Alex would be here for the next announcement. But he specifically had requested that we address wetlands protection, town of Amherst general bylaws and regulations, discussing an approach to revisions. So me and Erin discussed an outline for that procedure. So here it is. So um, please review the our current bylaw regulations, and if you need those, I guess they're online, but you could contact Erin. Erin, is online, are they sort of by section, or is there a full PDF that can be downloaded?
Yeah, if you go to the Town of Amherst Conservation Commission webpage, and you scroll down, there's um, a option for selecting I think it's rules and regulations, and if you click on that, it has links to everything, and there's a link to the regulations, and it's the entire document.
Okay, our bylaw document, the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so please review that. And send like we're not gonna make track changes to the document this time. So um, I'm asking for you to list any comments or suggestions or topics by section in an email to Erin. And Erin has offered to collate those into a single document, which we will then discuss as a commission, either in a special meeting or during a regularly scheduled meeting, I guess, depending on the extent of that. So those after our discussion, we'll post the clean version, track changes version, and we'll hold a public meeting to discuss any of the changes. So any comments that you might have could be minor modifications or clarity changes. I think everybody's been working with this long enough to know where maybe some sticking points arise that we could maybe be clearer for applicants, or just, things that you've noticed that you want to bring up. So, or big changes. Okay, so again, make the reviews, itemize them for Erin by section, and we're going to go from there. So please do that within 2 weeks. And we're going to give Erin 2 weeks for review. And she's going to need 1 week prior to posting. And then we'll have our meeting. So we're looking at 5 to 6 week window. And if we're having a Concom meeting for this, it's probably going to be in August, either the 13th or the 27th. So that's a fairly ambitious timeline, but that's what we're going to hope for. So I see Dave's hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. I guess I don't want to presume, I don't know any thoughts about what people might be considering with regard to revisions to those, but I did just want to caution the commission, and again, we'll see what comes in from commission members, but having such an aggressive timeline in the dead of summer and then proposing, say, again, I would just caution against proposing a public hearing on those revisions in August. August is a challenging time. A lot of people are on vacation, a lot of people are away. So I just want to make sure we're not kind of rushing through that process fall is a much better time when people are more engaged. So if there's discussion of it and all that, I would just advocate that we look at those during the fall.
For the public meeting. Yeah.
Or any kind of public discussions or public hearings, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. I mean, I'm fine with that. I guess I was just trying to make it happen, keep us to a timeline. And I also want to point out that we're not looking to do an overhaul of this document. This is
Yeah, I don't know what might come in from the commission.
like minor modifications. Yep, go ahead, Andre.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was, the question that I have. You said you don't know what kind of modifications we're going to be looking for. I just don't, I know that Alex proposed looking at them to review them, but is there anything that kind of comes to mind that needs to be pecked at? Or, I mean, we did this 2 years ago, right? Or 3?
I think we did it in 2021.
The
Like
we did it for a number of years leading up to when they were approved in June of 2022. So they've been in effect since June of 2022. A lot of the things that I would like to fix would be, there's a couple inconsistencies with resource area descriptions and a couple sections that have been discovered since the document was, approved, the final version. There's also nothing in there for fines for enforcement or fees for enforcement, and I think that's something that we should incorporate. They're just sharpening up sort of the mitigation section. I know we've talked a lot about the mitigation requirements for sort of standardizing that, and so that might be a place, an opportunity for us to integrate some additional language into the regulations that would be a little more specific relative to mitigation. So those are just a couple examples, but it's really like just sort of refining a couple areas to improve it.
All right, great. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you won't have anything, and that is totally fine.
Yeah, no, and if folks can, yeah, just whatever. I'll look for the comments. Excuse me.
Okay, and I did propose 2 weeks, and I understand that's ambitious, but if there's anybody that is going to be, for example, on vacation for a week and thinks that's unattainable, then I don't bring that up now, I guess, and we can move it. I just want to have a timeline to aim for mostly. Okay. Okay, then second, maybe I should have done that one first. I want to just check in on everybody's schedule for August. We often have to cancel a meeting because of quorum issues in August, and maybe it would be good to know that now. There's 2 meetings, the 13th and the 27th. Does anyone know right now if they will not be able to attend on either the 13th or the 17th? Okay.
It would
I
also
will-
be helpful to know for July as well, just for quorum consideration, since we're losing a member and it might take a little while to get a new appointment.
Okay, so our dates for July are,
The 9th and the 23rd, and it's shaping up to be a very busy month in July.
okay, I'm seeing no issues from folks. Okay, well, it looks like we'll be able to maintain those meetings. Okay. All right. Dave, on to you and director's report.
Sure. Thanks, Michelle. I'll be quick as usual. Lots of work going on up at Buffers Pond. As you know, and you probably follow our website, we're doing the weekly testing as we do every year from Memorial Day to Labor Day. I don't want to jinx anything, but bacteria levels there do seem to be at a fairly level state right now. Again, we've got these warm temperatures and then some rain coming in over the weekend. So again, we do the testing early in the week, Monday or Tuesday. It takes about 24 hours to culture. So we typically get the results on Wednesday or Thursday. In addition to that, as I've mentioned before, we're doing some additional testing around the pond at different locations, not every week, but periodically throughout the summer. And then we're also going upstream in the Cushman Brook, collecting data up there as well on water quality. I've reached out to some researchers at UMass, and I think we've got some interest from folks at UMass to help us a little bit and guide us. So and offer their expertise. So we're planning to have a meeting with staff and those folks from UMass in the next couple of weeks. We're also moving forward on the grant that we got up at Puffers for the dam and dike work, engineering studies, bathymetry studies. Those are well underway. So those will be happening throughout the summer. Some people saw a boat on the pond a week or so ago and called in, and that was our bathymetry work going on up there. So that's exciting to have happening. Let's see, at the same time, there's also, the town is working with some partners, including the Fort River Watershed Association on some water quality testing in the Fort River. So it's kind of nice. It's something that I've been thinking about and kind of working on for years. And after many years, we've got traction kind of both happening in South Amherst and beyond, and North Amherst and points north and east. So it's kind of nice to be looking at both the major rivers in Amherst and the water quality to see what we can do to improve that for the ecosystem, but also for recreation, for fishing and swimming and boating and wading and all those good things that people do in those two watersheds. So that's kind of exciting. The CPA committee met this last week. I was unable to make that meeting. It was mostly an organizational meeting. Jason, I believe, is still the liaison to the CPA. Is that right, Michelle?
Yeah, I think he's still in that term.
This was mostly an organizing meeting. Deadline for proposals will be similar to last year. It'll be during the month of September, which is early for staff to pull things together, but Aaron and I will have a preview for what we're thinking might come in from conservation. We'll have recreation proposals, affordable housing proposals, and historic preservation proposals coming in September. And then lastly, the town council did approve the town budget and the school budget, which again was a many month process, and they recently did that. So the conservation department, as well as all other departments in town, have their FY26 operating budget. Ours is, fairly unchanged. It is not dramatically increased because budgets, of course, are tight. But I'm happy to just get through that process with the council. We also got some items in our capital budget. There were some additional funds for some replacement equipment, things like brush cutters and mowers and what else is in there? Actually, some equipment to support redoing and improving some of our accessible trails was in the capital budget. So it's nice to get some of that equipment. Mind you, many people might say, well, can't you just borrow from DPW? And this has come up before, and we have a good working relationship with DPW, but oftentimes during the summer months, our short construction summer, they're working, we're working, and it's hard to share things like rollers or chippers and things like that because they're using them as well. Brad Borderweek, our land manager, does have a really good relationship with Alan Snow, who's a division director in a DPW, and he takes care of his staff, cares for our parks, recreation areas, and commons, as well as our public shade trees. So they have a very good working relationship, and we do share staff, and we also share equipment. But we're getting a little pulse of equipment money to help us out and replenish. Things like chainsaws break and they last for years and then you need to replace them. So those are some of the kinds of things we're up to. Trail projects will really start in July. As I said before, we will be doing some pretty basic bog bridge work, and then we'll be working on the ADA trails starting at Hickory Ridge. The new trail at Hickory needs some work, with the goal of opening that in the fall. So that's kind of where we are. There's more going on, but I want to be respectful of your full agenda. So thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, we have a few minutes for our first hearing. let's talk about 214 Pomeroy. So if you recall, commissioners, I think, Bruce, do you have the date, May 9th? We
Yes.
yes, we met with the landowner of this property. The subject of it was a special meeting, and the subject was a non-compliance issue, and there was mowing outside of the approved area under the NOI. And we talked about, well, we requested a formal amendment to bring that land into the current plan for the property. And we requested a different frequency of monitoring reports. We haven't heard from the landowner, and Aaron is going to be sending a letter of non-compliance and a request for a formal amendment. So I'd like to discuss with you a timeline for suggesting to do this, and just revisit our request that we are asking for a biannual rather than annual monitoring report submitted to Aaron. Alex, I see your hand up. Is it? Do you want to
Could
talk
you
now?
remind me where on the agenda we're going to talk about process for updating our regulations?
Yeah, we did. So, sorry, it was in my director's report. I mean, sorry, Commissioner Chair report. So we're asking people to review the current bylaws and submit comments to Erin in an email, like bullet point with reference to section numbers within the next 2 weeks. After that, she'll collate it. We'll have a meeting, and once we discuss that, we'll get it on an agenda either for a special meeting or a standing agenda either in August or September, depending on content.
So is that the sum of the process that we're going to use?
That is the sum of the process.
Well, we'll have to have a public meeting, just with the Concom to sort of go through page by page what the edits are, in terms of, before it goes to hearing. Once we get all of those edits that we want to take to the hearing agreed upon, I'll set up a web page where we have the existing document, the edited document, and a document and track changes so people can see what those changes look like. And then we'll schedule a public hearing. And Dave had suggested in September so that we have attendance from the wider community to be able to participate, and hopefully have a hearing in September to discuss the full edits of the document.
So I'm not quite clear on the process. That I don't see where commission discussion takes place. I'm sorry that I missed your report. I had a hell of a time getting on the Concom webinar.
Sure. So I'll just try and backtrack then. So, once we've all submitted comments to Erin, and we're looking at a 2-week window to do that, she's gonna collate it into a single document, which we'll discuss during a public meeting. And at that point, we will discuss the changes and make our final edits. Those final edits will be presented on the website in a clean and track change documents, and then we'll have a hearing to approve them. So 2 meetings, one for commissioner discussion and one for the public hearing for the
So,
final.
Just for clarification, you said 2 meetings. Are they separate from regular Concom meetings on a Wednesday? Or are we going to squeeze them into the existing committee meeting?
That's to be determined. I mean, it's looking likely that we'll need a special meeting for it, given the agenda items for the next month.
Yeah, so had I been present when you were talking about this, I was going to suggest that we carve out 30 minutes at the beginnings like we were supposed to do tonight to talk about process. And my feeling was that we had time for the whole commission to talk about this rather than the chair telling us what's going to happen. And then in the future, have time allocated at every meeting so that we don't have to have a special meeting. and give us a half an hour to go through things, whether it's Aaron's collated document or whatever. And just do that every time we meet as a commission for 1.5 hour. That's it.
I see this going better if everybody submits their personal
Mhm.
comments to Erin. She includes it in a document so we can all see what people suggested, have time to think about that on our own, come back and then discuss it. How long we spend on it is also to be determined and probably dependent on what people have submitted to us. I'm not going to put a timeline on it, and I don't think we need to meet every time for 30 minutes. I'm envisioning more of a single meeting where we discuss it and finalize our recommendations.
Yeah, so I didn't speak against submitting comments. I did ask that people submit comments on the hunting alternatives document also. And I wasn't around if that was part of your report. But I thought how to proceed was going to be a commission decision.
I don't think it would be very productive to make it a commission decision, but I did ask for people's input and I didn't get any feedback to suggest otherwise. I mean, we did discuss a timeline for it. I mean, if you want to review the recording, then go ahead and maybe you can better understand the discussion that happened. Bruce?
And I'll move aside.
Well, just one thing that might happen is that we'll find one or two issues that are going to take more time. And then maybe some in a specific way at a meeting, if we could put 30 or 45 minutes to talk about X, whatever X is. Because it seems like it's plausible. There's two parts. There's the whole document and there's fine tuning and making sure things aren't working at cross purposes. And then there may be one or two bigger things that are going to take more targeted effort.
Yeah.
I agree that that's a likely outcome, and I think we won't know that until we see what everybody's comments are. So I want to establish some kind of timeline and structure for this, and then we can go from there. So we'll start with 2 weeks for comments, see what they look like, and then we'll start planning meetings to discuss it. I'm not going to limit it to one meeting, but it's hard to say what this is going to look like until we have it in hand.
So just to close out, as somebody who chaired the subcommittee on land use regulations, which was like a second job, probably more work than being a commissioner, there was always an extra meeting. And I want to speak my piece about avoiding extra meetings and somehow making time within the existing commission meeting, even if it takes 7 or 8 meetings, to avoid extra meetings. That's
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. All right, I would like to address 214 Pomeroy within our next 4 minutes. Does anyone have any questions or need any reminders about this one? Okay, Erin, you were specifically looking for basically support or confirmation from the commission to send the formal amendment request and notice of or enforcement.
We'll just update the commission that on the fact that we haven't received any correspondence or permits. So I don't know where things stand, and I don't know what the status of the submission is, if there's any intention to submit it. So I think it's important for us to follow up at this point and say the commission is expecting a submission by set date. The other piece of it was there was a requirement for an environmental monitor report on an annual basis, and the first report in 2023 was submitted. The report for 2024 wasn't submitted when this violation was identified. The applicant was made aware of the fact that they didn't submit the 2024 report. And so what we received was like a 3-bullet list of things from the landowner, and then a report from Wright Builders, who built the barn, on what had been completed relative to the barn. And I think that they kind of missed the mark on the environmental report for 2024, which whether the commission wants that resubmitted by an environmental party, or if the commission wants to say we'll accept the 2024 report, but we expect 2025 to be an actual environmental assessment and not just a sort of thrown together bulleted list. So I
Yeah, I
think,
just want to follow up on that one because we discussed it at length today, and you had suggested that you didn't have any problems with the current state, even though the monitoring report didn't conform to our expectations. But I think
Right.
going forward, we can be clear that we expect it to be a professional report. But I do want to focus on getting the formal amendment from the landowner at this point, and then giving guidance about our clear expectations about the monitoring report.
yes. So, I mean, I think if we set a deadline for the submission of the amendment, that would be a great first step. As far as the issues with the monitoring report, we can refine that in an amended order of conditions to provide more detail in terms of what our expectations are, and or change the frequency of the submissions as well. So, just wanted to throw that out there.
Thanks. Okay, so we're looking for timeline suggestions. Anything else? I don't know who had their hand up first, but Andre, you're
Yeah.
first in line.
Are we going to be sending a notice of non-compliance? Is that what the idea is? Yeah, good. All right. Well, I'm completely in favor of that. It has been a while, and I think that the landowners have been hiding behind not knowing, or stating that they didn't know what was going on. They didn't understand the initial permit and so on. So I think that it's time for us to hold them to use of professional services rather than their own ideas and so on. So yeah, there we are.
Thanks, Andre. Do you have a suggestion for timeline, given that our special meeting was May 9th? And we did not provide a timeline at that point, but more of an expectation that we would be receiving that.
I would look by the end of July. I mean, this is they should have given this to us before. I think it's I think giving them a month to get it from here on is reasonable.
Thank you. Bruce? Okay, so we have a suggestion of July 31st for a formal amendment. Rachel?
Would this require a survey?
Interesting question.
They already
Erin?
have a survey from the previous submission and order of conditions. So I think if they modify that plan, it wouldn't require resurveying the whole property.
Okay, cool, because if they had to get a survey, they would probably need more time, but yeah, if they already have a survey.
Yeah, they have a survey of the property boundary, but I don't know about the specific use areas within the property. But I think we've been using GIS maps with markup so far, so I don't know what a standard would be, if that's sufficient. Okay, well, so I have July 31st. Does anyone have any other comments about that, Bruce?
I was just thinking about the survey. I think we should try not to put additional obstacles in the way of them complying. It didn't, when in the site visit, it didn't seem that complicated, so.
Okay, thank you for the context. Okay, so do you have what you need, Erin, for the next steps? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right, our first hearing is a notice of intent for Wendell Wetland Services on behalf of Taylor Davis Landscaping Company for maintenance and repair of stormwater management systems and wetland restoration, removal of materials from wetlands at 71 West Pomeroy Lane, map 19D, lots 12. Proposed work is within BBB and buffer zone. Bruce, were you going to remind me about the hearing structure?
I was, yes.
Thank you. And each hearing has 20 dedicated minutes on the agenda, 5 minutes from staff, 5 minutes from the applicant, 5 minutes for public comment, or 2 minutes per person, 5 minutes from commissioners. The commissioners require all submitted and revised material to be submitted by Wednesday, the week prior to the meeting at close of business. Thank you, Erin. Yes, and for all members of the public speaking, please state your name, address, preferred pronouns and who you're representing. It's funny, your version's different than mine. Okay. So our notice of intent for Wendell Wetland Services on behalf of Taylor Davis Landscaping Company is going to be continued. Do we need to pull anyone in for this, Aaron, or is this? Okay, great. Bruce, do you still have your hand up, or is that before? Okay, so we're looking for a motion to continue Wendell Wetland Services on behalf of Taylor Davis.
I move.
Go ahead.
I think we need the whole thing, Rachel. The
Oh,
date.
sorry. I move to continue the public hearing for DEP number 0890751 to July 9th, 2025 at 7:50 PM.
Second.
Rachel on the motion, Bruce on the second, Andre,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, next up. We're a minute early. Oh, there we go. Amended notice of intent for Pure Sky requesting the installation of a battery energy storage system, trenching for auxiliary electrical service, and a culvert replacement. Proposed work includes work and bordering land subject to flooding, riverfront area, bank, land underwater, bodies and waterways, and buffer zone at 191 West Pomeroy Lane, map 19D and lot 10. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening.
Is
Madam Chair.
Lawrence here with us tonight?
Lawrence is here.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, Erin, would you mind giving us an update?
Sure. So we received a letter from an LSP that had been requested by Rachel. And there was, there was some additional information submitted to us as well. And why am I drawing a blank on what it is?
NHESP.
Thank you. NHESP approval also came through. So I drafted an order of conditions, which is in the public folder and also in the commission folder, and sort of tried to just the first condition that I added was a condition relative to the CMP, which I had been requesting some reports on the turtle monitoring relative to the CMP. So it's basically just so that I can establish that that's been complied with. And then there's a series of additional conditions associated with that, as far as adjusting erosion and sediment controls, making sure that we have a pre-construction meeting prior to the trenching work and the culvert replacement project taking place, and also making sure that we have a biologist on site for the movement of the turtle exclusion barrier, which also serves as our erosion control barrier. So because it's being the barrier is being adjusted in order to expand the work area, I think it's going to be important that we have somebody on site to monitor during the movement of that barrier. So yeah, I tried to fashion something tonight that I thought would get us through the finish line, and yeah, that's where it's at. I did send this out a little bit late this afternoon, and my apologies on that. It was very fast and furious day, so the applicant may have some comments on the suggested conditions, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Erin. Tom, Lawrence, any comments?
We'll keep it really simple. We're fine with it, and we'd appreciate the order issued this evening.
Great.
Thanks.
Any public comment on this? Please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Alex?
Sorry if I'm not up to speed on what I'm gonna ask about, because the answer may be right under my nose and I don't know it. But where does fixing the fence so that it's X number of inches off the ground fit into the long-term plan?
Erin or Tom?
I think that Oh,
I can
go
I
ahead.
can respond to that. The fence work and the correction to make sure that it was lifted has been completed already.
Oh, sorry, Lawrence, I haven't been out there for a while.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, looking for a motion to close and issue the order of conditions.
Can I ask Aaron a question?
Sure.
Aaron, have you looked at the fence fix?
Have I specifically been out there to inspect that it was fixed? No, I have not. But I would give the applicant the benefit of the doubt on it, and we still have 3 certificates of compliance that will need to be issued on this site, because we have one, well, actually we have 4. Don't
Okay,
we? We have
that's all.
4.
That's
So
all I need.
we have
That's
quite a
all
bit
I-
of leverage to
That's all I
make
need.
sure that it's completed if it's not.
Thank you. Again, my apologies if I'm not up on that.
All right, is anybody looking at the motion or do you want me to read it? Okay. There we go. Thank you, Aaron.
I'll move to close the public hearing and approve an order of conditions for DEP number 089-0728 pursuant to Wetlands Protection Town of Amherst General Bylaw, Article 3.31 and regulations and the Wetlands Protection Act with boilerplate conditions under both the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Amherst General Bylaw with noted special conditions as discussed.
A second.
Andre on the motion, Rachel on the second. Rachel,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Andre,
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right,
Thank you very much.
good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
So just one question for Erin. The pre-construction meeting, do you want one for each individual amendment, or did you want one that we can kind of do it all the things at the same time?
I'd like one
Okay.
for the trenching and the culvert preferably, and but I'm open if you want to separate them out into 2 separate, if it
That's fine.
timing wise
Yeah.
is preferred.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for working with us, guys. Good night.
Always a pleasure. Bye.
Night. Okay. Next up, 7:40. Wow, we're on time. Notice of intent for GZA Geo Environmental Incorporated on behalf of Archipelago Investment LLC and Hampshire College for proposed mixed-use residential development at 0 West Bay Road, map 25B, lots 52, and 0 West Street, map 25B, lot 58. Proposed work includes construction of 3 mixed-use residential structures with associated parking, stormwater remediation, and landscaping, portions of which are located within buffer zones to bordering vegetated wetlands, DEP number 089-0752. Bruce.
My version says hold on opening until 7:50. Not sure why, but that's what it says.
Oh,
Yeah, the applicant had a conflict, and I see his representative is here, but Kyle was not able to be here until at least 7:50.
Okay.
So and I figured we had 2 hearings, we'll probably be fine, but we burned through those pretty quick. So
yeah. All right. I'll have to read that one again, I guess. Okay, so pause for 8 minutes. Thank you, Bruce. I'm always looking at the paper agenda. All right, so Erin, can you in the meantime just give us an update on Olympia Drive
yes.
monitoring?
Yeah, so I've been doing some spot checks on projects, big projects around town, just to see where things stand, what things look like. And one of the spots I was concerned about was 47 Olympia Drive, because we had previously had a dewatering operation that was dewatered over the erosion controls into the wetland buffer and ultimately into the wetland. Which was, they were issued a notice of non-compliance and the situation was cleaned up, but I wanted to just pop out there and see what it was looking like, because there was some issues with the monitoring reports that looked a little suspicious. So I went out and took a look, and what I observed is that they have a temporary stormwater BMP at the low point of the site, which is a sort of a sediment forebay for settling out turbid water that falls on the site inside the erosion control barrier. And what's happening is there's no berm on that forebay. And so when it exceeds the height of the erosion controls, it is either going under or over the controls and washing into the buffer, and it's following a stream channel right down into the wetland. So I spoke to the super on the site, and I said I'd like to have this addressed to add an additional check dam and some additional erosion controls. And they said that they were going to work on that. I haven't had an opportunity to follow up yet with them to make sure that that was completed, but yeah, so that's just one example from an ongoing monitoring issue that I've been trying to keep on top of. And we have a number of sites open. So, and then the other site, just to let you know, I just got notice this week that the hydro seeding was completed at Hickory Ridge. So that was a long wait, but it got done, thankfully. And I'm really hopeful that we get some growth on the graded areas there. And yeah, those are the two larger sites. I still have to go take a look at Fort River. The monitoring reports at Fort River look really good. So not as worried about Fort River at this point.
Thanks, Erin. Okay, we still have 5 minutes. Alex, before you arrived, we were discussing whether or not we had quorums through July to August. Do you expect, are you going to be on vacation for any of those that would preclude you from meeting?
In July or August?
Both.
From August, let's see, the latter.
So the dates would be the 13th and the 27th in August. And
Yeah, I am out of town from August 10 through the 23rd.
okay. So Erin, Alex and I won't be here on August 13th, which might still be fine, but okay.
Does this have to do with regular meetings?
Yeah, we often have to cancel a meeting in August because people are on vacation and we don't have a quorum. So we're just trying to get ahead of that scheduling, but it looks like we're in good shape unless
Well,
Jason.
I may be able to attend during that period, August 10 to 23. I'm just out of town. I still have a laptop.
Okay, good to know. All right. Do we have any, are the applicants here as far as you can see? I see Mark.
Yeah.
We're done with our other business. So if anyone has any questions that might take 4 minutes, we're kind of just killing time.
Okay, so in terms of my availability in July, I told Erin in an email that I may rescind my availability for July 30. And the reason
Okay.
for that is that I've had an invitation to attend a genuine luau in Hawaii with family members.
Excellent.
And I have not decided whether to accept that or not. I wouldn't even put some odds on it. And if I had to make a decision tonight, I don't know what I'd say. So these are, when they said genuine, it's that's exactly what they meant. So I'll try to be here on July 30 because we have an extended meeting, but I may not be able to be. So
Okay, thank you for the heads up.
I'll know within plenty of time on what's going to happen there.
Okay, excusable absence, I guess.
I have a question for Dave Zomek. He's there. No, not there.
He's here.
Oh, is there recruitment for a new member underway?
Yes. Oops, can you hear me? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, typically, you know, it's a town manager appointment, so the town manager's office organizes interviews based on the citizen activity forms, the CAFs, as they call them, that have come in with people expressing interest in joining the commission. So I believe interviews will begin next week. And Michelle and Aaron attend those. I occasionally will attend those as well, but it would be town manager, the chair, staff, one staff person, and then there's a member of, oh boy, Michelle, I'm not gonna get it. There's a citizen advisory committee that sits in on those and advises the town manager as part of that process. And I'm blanking on the
Okay.
exact name of that committee, but yes, short answer, it is underway.
Okay,
Okay. How are we looking
Seven-
now, Aaron?
7:50 on my clock. I don't know what your clock's saying.
Okay. Mine says 7:49, so I'm just gonna reread it. Okay, so 7:50, notice of intent, GZA and Geo Environmental Incorporated on behalf of Archipelago Investments LLC and Hampshire College for proposed mixed-use residential development at 0 West Bay Road, map 25B, lots 52, and 0 West Street, map 25B, lots 58. Proposed work includes construction of 3 mixed-use residential structures with associated parking, stormwater remediation, and landscaping, portions of which are located within buffer zones to bordering vegetated wetland. DEP number 0890752. Welcome, Mark.
Good evening. Has Kyle joined?
Kyle has not joined yet.
Andre?
Really needed there because he's still on our
He had a presentation to give you.
all right.
Kyle, if you are here with some other name, please raise your hand so we can get you in.
I mean, another
Apologize.
option might be if Kyle's not here, our next hearing is scheduled for 7:45, so we could push this to the last item on the agenda and just keep moving through if that's preferred.
I believe that's what Kyle was requesting, was to be moved to the last item on the agenda in his email. Yeah.
Okay. I thought he just
Okay.
asked to move to 7:50. Okay, so
We'll do that then. So stay posted, Mark, and we'll put you at the end there.
Thank you.
Okay, so for audience members, we are moving on to the next 2 hearings, and then this one will be at the end.
So I can't remove Mark and Tom as panelists. Usually I can like remove ability to talk. I guess they're just gonna be there, sort of floating in the room, if
I think
that's
they
okay.
should go out and come back.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'll try it, and then if I've done it before and come back in as a panelist, so I'll try
Yeah.
it and then we'll see what happens.
I don't want to remove you because if I do, you're not able to get back in, I'm afraid. So
I'll leave. Bruce is kicking me out, so I'm gonna leave.
okay.
All
right,
right,
so-
we're on notice of intent for Town of Amherst. So I think I saw Beth in there. If you want to bring her in. So this is Town of Amherst for the construction of a roundabout and realignment of an intersection of Amity Street and University Drive. Proposed work is located in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands, map 13B, lot 21, 2, and 18. Hi, Beth. Good evening.
Hello.
Okay, Erin, would you like to give us our update on this?
Yes, so Beth sent along some updated materials yesterday, which I forwarded on to the commission and put into the packets. I attempted a a very fast and furious list of special conditions, which I uploaded very late today to the packet, sent to Beth, and also uploaded to the public packet for the commission to consider tonight. And yeah, I think that the only thing that was sort of outstanding was the letter from an engineer, which Beth was not able to obtain. So, but the other items that were requested were submitted to us. So that's what I have.
Thanks, Erin. Beth, please go ahead.
Yeah, as Erin said, I responded to all of her comments, and I think you guys have seen that. I provided the grading plan with the elevations of the infrastructure and the proposed grading, an O&M plan, individual standalone document. So yeah, I did reach out to Fuss and O'Neill, and they basically said that they legally, liability wise, can't actually sign a statement stating that what they've designed, you know, would not increase post-construction flow. Like, they would have to do the calculations to sign a statement, but they certainly agreed with everything that I had said in the notice of intent, that the proposed infrastructure based on the storage capacity of the 4-foot sumps, just by themselves, without even considering the volume of the storm scepter and the additional manholes, just the 9 new 4-foot sumps will hold more than an inch of rain over the new impervious square footage. So I even did a little calculation of that, which I think I sent that to Erin, and I could show it to you, but just a basic calculation of an inch of rain over the proposed additional impervious, you know, the cubic feet of that change is less than what just those 9 new 4-foot sumps are going to provide. So basically, it's the whole design of infrastructure is going to have much more storage capacity than there is now, and will provide more than enough for the increased impervious. And there's going to be treatment through the storm scepter. So that's my story.
Thanks, Beth. If there's any public comment, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none. Commissioners. Rachel.
Thanks for the grading plan. That was super helpful to see kind of the limit of work and how the grades are being changed. And also, it looks like you're going to reuse a lot of the existing pipe infrastructure there. Were you able to scope the lines just to make sure that they are still functional before the work? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they cameraed most of those lines, because in fact, I know they did. We are replacing one, which is very deteriorated, which is actually the biggest one that takes all the drainage from Amity Street, I think almost from Blue Hills down. And it's currently a 24-inch corrugated metal that's pretty deteriorated. We're replacing, I want to say, like 220 linear feet. It's on the plans, with a 30-inch concrete pipe, and then adding a new concrete pipe, actually. But all the other lines, they cambered them, and they're still in good enough condition to not have to be replaced.
That's great. And I had a question too about, you said the cost of the stormwater report that you're the town's trying to save money. Do we know what that number is? Is that?
Stormwater reports, I'm gonna say between 15 to 20,000.
Okay.
And you know, previous NOIs that have come to the commission that are town projects, like Mill Lane, for example, we put 2 storm scepters in there, and there was no stormwater report, you know, submitted. It's that, do you spend the $15,000 on a stormwater report, or do you spend it on a storm scepter? And I guess I'm more in favor of, you know, spending it on the actual infrastructure. Our engineering department doesn't have HydroCAD, so we you know, we can do a lot of our own engineering drawings, and we do a really good job, I think. Not me personally, but some of our engineers do with AutoCAD and stuff. But we don't have the capability to do stormwater calculations, unfortunately.
I feel really torn about this because I want to support the town. I don't want to create burdens, but I also am concerned about just the amount of water that's coming through this area from upslope. And that, you know, the property at 422 Amity Street is within, you know, 10 to 15 feet of the outfall of some of this water. So, it just saying it would, I think this is a public piece of infrastructure that is gonna have a bigger footprint. That's highly used by pedestrians and vehicles. It's right next to the resource area and it could impact other people's properties. So I would advocate for the stormwater report.
Thanks, Rachel. Bruce?
I went on the site visit. It all seems reasonably straightforward. I understand the needs of the town to really try to move things along, and I'm in favor of that. But I also am on this commission, I'm the advocate for getting things to the conservation staff a week ahead of time. And I haven't had a chance to look at what Aaron wrote because it came also late. So I think the town has to try, and I think Beth tries, but we have to all try to hold to the same standard that we ask of the general public and the public advocates. So applicants. So let's keep working on it. I'll just keep advocating for a week ahead of time.
Thanks, Bruce. Andre?
I'll second Bruce's sentiment. I wasn't able to read the whole thing. I read some of it. It's like we're coming here and we don't have all the information if we don't get it in time.
Thanks, Andre. So I'm hearing reservations because of the lack of time to review the materials. And then to Rachel's comment, I mean, are we looking at all or nothing for stormwater calculations? Is there something doable that is not a $20,000 stormwater report, but would satisfy, Rachel, your concerns to some effect? I don't know what that is, but I guess I'm asking you guys if there's some kind of intermediate information or study or calculation that's not a full-on stormwater that can be done. Erin?
Well, I was just gonna say, I know we have engineers in DPW, and I know you said it was Fuss and O'Neill, right, Beth?
Yeah.
Would somebody in the Department of Public Works be willing to sign a letter asserting the post-development flows would be a decrease from existing, or not an increase rather, that the proposed development isn't going to be increasing post-development flows? I know that's not a question you can really answer, but I guess I'm just wondering if that might be a possibility.
I mean, we can look into that. So, I mean, all we need to show, this is a little to address, I guess, Rachel, looking at more the overall general flows that come to this location. All stormwater reports or all the regulations require is that you are proving that, you know, the difference between pre and post, you're able to actually either infiltrate or treat any kind of an increase in what might be coming off the site. And just as, like I was saying, sort of a simple calculation of what the increase in impervious is, and you're looking at it, say, an inch of rain, and then you compare that to the volume of the deep sump catch basins that we're installing. I mean, I did the calculation, I can show it to you, and the volume we're proposing can hold easily more than what the increase in flow due to the impervious increase is. So in a way, I feel like that's all that needs to necessarily be proven. And it just seems like it's a pretty obvious thing. The other thing that we can do, and we're gonna need to do this anyway, is talk to the storm scepter folks, which we've already started talking to them about sizing for the storm scepter. And we can very easily get from them something stating that the storm scepter will be able to treat the volume of water that comes through that, because they need that information to size it. That's something we can provide that doesn't need an engineer's stormwater study. That's, I think, something that was provided for Mill Lane. Paul
What's
did
that?
that.
Rachel?
Yeah, I think it also, the stormwater assessment can flag if there's an issue with our current rainfall events. So if a system has been designed for the 1960s and is gonna surcharge at, you know, a 4-inch rain event, that's something that you could know, you know, you would learn from in the stormwater report. And specifically because the building at 422 is right where that concrete abutment is and that pipe is coming out. So, you know, if you're increasing the pipe size and capacity for conveyance, going from the 24 to 30, and if that's full, you know, are you flooding out 422 with the increased flow capacity and storage? So that's the question. But I'll stop.
Yeah, but I guess I'm wondering, you know, are you talking about, is it flooding right now with current conditions, or how is this project going to change the conditions? Because this project's only changing the conditions by increasing impervious by 7,540 square feet. Besides that, it's not changing anything else. So all we're really saying is that the change that we're making, which is 7,540 square feet of new impervious, what's the volume that would come off of that, and is the infrastructure we're providing going to deal with the change? And it's pretty obvious that what we're providing is going to deal with the change and more. So we're going to actually improve the current situation. And that's all.
That makes
all I
sense.
have for backup,
Yeah,
I guess. You know,
that makes sense. I'm just thinking about if you have a pipe that has been crushed or compromised, that's our existing condition. So the water coming through there today is less than what it is in theory. And then you're gonna fix it. So in theory, more water is coming through than what's happening today, just by the nature of the upslope condition. And so
Yeah,
that's the
I see.
question. We've gone through that process on some projects, and it has been really eye-opening to know what the impacts are, especially in the context of increased rainfalls, and changing climate and things like that.
Bruce?
Is it correct that, and I sort of am asking this from Rachel, but it seems like by your description, it's not the amount of water that comes through, it's how fast it comes through. As if the existing pipe is slightly injured in some way, it slows the water down as it goes past that place where it's injured. Whereas once you fix it, it zooms down, right? And so it isn't the volume. Am I correct? But it's not the volume, it's the speed with which it arrives at the bottom.
Yeah, that's part of the deep sump and all the storage capacity that's another thing it deals with, is it takes the stormwater, holds it for a longer period of time to slow the flows, because compared to
Beth,
what's there right now.
I understand that you're complying with what you have to comply with, which showing the pre and post. And then Rachel's concern is sort of different, which is this property going to be affected by the new system in an unanticipated way? And let's say we move forward with the current plan and the property is affected by the bigger pipe. What can be done to remediate that, if anything? Or, I mean, is there an after the fact fix if indeed there's a problem with the
Mhm.
bigger pipe and greater flows. Is there anything?
Well, that line is where the storm scepter is gonna go. It's gonna go along that line somewhere before the head wall. So I think in that scenario, we could we could put in some kind of a manhole that diverts and new pipe. If it really becomes a situation where there's too much coming through there, what would probably happen is it would overcompensate the storm scepter. So again, when we're sizing the storm scepter, which is happening in the next few weeks, we'll have some information on some of these things that we can provide to you guys. But yeah, no, there's fixes with that idea with an additional manhole that could, and piping that could take the water possibly to the other outfall. There's the 2 outfalls. There's also the sizing of the storm scepter.
Okay, I'm Rachel, did you have a question? I'm seeing Erin putting her clock up, so
Okay,
no, go ahead, and I think then we'll probably just see if people are ready to move on this tonight or if we're looking at a continuation. Go ahead.
Or could the pipe be extended further so it doesn't terminate right next to the middle of the building? That head wall situation, could that be continued past the building so it doesn't present a safety issue?
So Robert's project is putting in the head wall. We're doing the trenching and replacing the pipe, and we're working with them, and they're doing the head wall. So that would start, getting into his project a bit, because I think downstream of that is where you guys have put in a box culvert, right, Erin? Downstream of there, you're requiring a box culvert. So, we could pipe it completely. You could get rid of the box culvert and we'll just pipe it to the other side of there, but it's
Yeah, I
nice in the
mean,
daylights.
unfortunately, it's the way that it being in a sort of channel-like configuration with a hydrologic gradient, you get a situation where it's mimicking a stream, and so to do that is basically you're putting an intermittent stream or perennial stream underground, and so to do that is a lot more of a regulatory challenge than you might think. I mean, one thing I will say about that swale wetland waterway area where that new pipe, upgraded pipe size is going to be discharging, is that location is going to be looking significantly different from what it looks like now in terms of having an actual head wall. Like right now, it's like a pipe that just pops out from the ground. And so with the proposed plan at 422, we're going to have an actual culvert head wall where that discharge point is, and there's going to be armoring in terms of stone and some reconstruction of that feature so that it actually functions a little bit more like a waterway or a conveyance of water. And also with the increased culvert size, water will move through that area a little bit better. Right now we have like I want to say it's like a 20-inch culvert, and it's damming up right at that discharge point. So I think your point is totally valid, Rachel, completely valid. I just think that it's tough. I mean, like to envision it the way it is now, it will look very different once 422 goes in.
Okay, so I'd like to see hands from commissioners who is ready to move on this tonight. Andre, I don't have your camera. Andre, are you there? Okay, I see 2 hands up. I can't see if we have a majority. I don't know where Andre went. Alex. All right, well, yeah, then I guess if you are ready, I suggest making a motion, because I can't see Andre, so I hope he pops in.
I can't
Nope.
see I can't see the screen that would be red.
I'll read it. I got it. I move to close the public hearing and approve an order of conditions for DEP number 089-0755 pursuant to Wetlands Protection Town of Amherst General Bylaw, Article 3.31 and regulations, and the Wetlands Protection Act with boilerplate conditions under both the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Amherst General Bylaw with the noted special conditions as discussed.
Second.
Bruce on the motion, Alex on the second. Bruce,
Aye.
Rachel,
No. Sorry.
Alex,
Aye.
Andre.
Abstain.
Okay. I think I'm in favor of more information about the storm scepter. I think given that we had a late submission and there are people that didn't have enough time to look at it and we have some remaining questions, that's what I'd like to see. So I'm a no. So we don't have a quorum to move forward. Erin?
So under the circumstances, I just want to make sure Beth has really clear direction of what the commission will need in order to move forward at the next meeting. One of the things that I hope might bridge the gap here is to get a signed letter from Jason that asserts the improved stormwater benefits at the roundabout. And then maybe if that data or the information is available from the from the hydrodynamic separator, that might also help. But if we're not approving tonight, then, and there was no vote approved to close the public hearing, then I think we're going to have a motion to continue in order to allow Beth to get the additional items that the commission's looking for here. So I have an 8:05 slot on July 9th as an option if somebody wants to make a motion to continue.
Before we do that, I just want to, so Erin listed some things off. Is there anything else from commissioners that we want to relay to Beth before we make that motion? Okay, seeing none. We'll go with Erin's list and July 9th and a motion to continue.
8:05 p.m.
All right. I'll move to continue the public hearing for DEP number 089-0755 to is it July 9th?
Yes, at 8:05.
At 8:05 p.m.
A
Okay.
second.
Andre on the motion, Rachel on the second. Bruce,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Andre,
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay, sorry we couldn't move that forward, Beth, but we'll see you July 9th.
Yep,
Thank you.
I'll see what I can pull together.
Thank you.
All
Right.
right, thanks.
Okay, next up. This is a abbreviated notice of intent for resource area delineation. This hearing is being held as required by the provisions of Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth, and act relative to the protection of the wetlands and as most recently amended in Article 3.31, Wetlands Protection under the Town of Amherst General Bylaws. This is an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, Bacon Wilson PC, on behalf of Colonial Village Development LLC, for the confirmation of isolated vegetated wetland boundaries under Wetlands Protection Town of Amherst General Bylaws and Regulations at 162 Southeast Street and 81 Belchertown Road, map 15C, lots 80 and 66. Hello, could you please introduce yourself and provide your name?
David Cameron, Fleetwood Environmental Solutions LLC, and I'm also here with Tom Reedy of Bacon Wilson PC.
Welcome. Erin, could you give us a 5-minute introduction to this, please?
Sure. So there's a limited study area that's associated with this ANRAD, which is a section of the lawn area at Colonial Village. And they're looking to confirm under our local bylaw only for the wetlands that are within that study area. We did have a site visit on, gosh, what day was that? The 24th, the
Yep,
hottest day of the
yesterday.
year. It was pretty toasty out there. And I sort of did a spot check throughout the study area with soil auger. There were some areas where I felt like, you know, I felt like I had confidence in the boundary, particularly the one that's up against Southeast Street. The areas that were in the back, sort of between Belchertown Road and Southeast Street, I had less sort of confidence in the boundary, not because of the applicant's experience or competence, but more because it's a very tricky site. It's previous development. There's obviously been fill placed there, so the soils are really tricky, and so we're going off of a lot off hydrology, and the area is a mowed field, so the vegetation has been maintained as lawn. So there's areas where you can see some, you know, rushes and sedges popping up, and there's areas where it's just lawn. And then there was a couple locations sort of in the middle of the site where there was low-lying areas, clearly with some hydrology and some high groundwater, where I did see some sort of oxidized rhizospheres in the soil, which told me that there was some evidence of long-term saturation there. So, I mean, I guess where I'm coming from as staff on this one is as it stands right now with the delineation, I feel the characteristics of the site are complicated enough that I don't feel confident in the boundary. I would feel more comfortable having a third party look at it, somebody who's really, really experienced with soils and wetlands. But that's just my thought looking at it at first pass. The commissioners who attended may feel differently from the site walk. And I know that there was one potential area that Dave was going to look at to adjust the flagging. Not sure if flags were moved or if there was an issue with the accuracy where it was wetter this time than when it was actually flagged. That's all I have.
Erin, would the applicant like to provide an introduction?
I think Erin did a good job characterizing what we all saw at the site walk yesterday. I did agree that there was what looked to be an expanded groundwater seepage into what we flagged as wetland 2, which is the one closest to Belchertown Road. And I think it makes sense to hang some additional flags there. And we're happy to do that, I think. The two other areas that I think Erin asked us to take a closer look at, tried to match what her notes were on her plan with my field copy of the plan, looked distinctly different yesterday than every single other time that I've been there. And these wetlands were flagged by two different firms, and we all, I think, agree that it's a very difficult site. The soils are disturbed. We went from an excessive drought when I started looking at the property late last fall to an excessively wet spring. And the herbaceous plant community, meaning the grasses and the wildflowers, often respond very quickly to such extreme fluctuations in precipitation. So I think that may explain some of what we saw yesterday. So I think we're willing to take a closer look at those other two areas, Erin, that you pointed out. I feel comfortable hanging some additional flags at wetland 2 at the location that we, I think, agreed on. So I guess we would ask for a continuance eventually here. But I want to just also note that a big part of this filing is to get confirmation from the commission that these are just town wetlands and not resource areas subject to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act. There is an apparent bordering vegetated wetland to the west on the opposite side of Southeast Street that's on Amherst College property. We show the buffer zone projection onto the study area. That's the subject of this ANRAD. But the wetlands that we've delineated and the wet spots, the additional wet spots that we saw yesterday that may or may not end up getting flagged, appear to be just low spots in a lawn. One of them is connected to a subsurface drainage system that's several hundred, if not maybe over 1,000 linear feet of below grade piping, but none of them appear to meet the definition of BVW because none of them are touching a water body. That's something
Thanks.
we actually did discuss in the field yesterday, probably because it was so hot and we were trying to keep things moving.
Aaron, is this?
I was just going to
related?
say, if we do end up doing a continuance, one of the things that I think would be really super helpful for me is if there's any historic as-built records or anything like that that define particularly that larger basin area at the center of the property as a stormwater structure, because to me it has a very distinct basin with a berm, and then there's like a spillway at the outlet. And I would like to know or verify if that was actually an engineered system, which would give me a lot more confidence in that low-lying area at the center of the property. So if there's going to be a continuance to allow the applicant to kind of give those areas a second look, I would ask if that could be looked into.
Okay, if there's any public comment, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I'm going to go to the commissioners. I'd love to hear from people who are out on the site, but any questions or comments?
I was on the site visit. It's pretty much as Mr. Cameron and Aaron described. I could see the virtue of trying to understand the historic construction or stormwater or whatever is causing these low-lying areas to be wet, or wetter than everything around it. It would be good to know that. I understand Aaron's interest in having a third-party review, but it strikes me that we have two of the most talented people on this topic in the room already, and between Aaron and Fleetwood Solutions, I think they could come to terms with what's needed. I personally wouldn't be in favor of adding yet another person in there, but.
Thanks, Bruce. Anyone else? Alex?
I joined Bruce and I joined Aaron and Fleetwood Environmental Solutions on that hot day in that field with no shade. And I echo everything that Aaron said and that has been said about how complicated the rolling ground is. And I would support Aaron if she thinks a third-party review is warranted. The purpose of this meeting, I think, is to just determine jurisdiction. I think that's what we're doing. And if there's a continuance, I'd let Aaron and Fleetwood Environmental work out what needs to get done during that period.
Thanks, Alex. Aaron?
Just want to say I'm really flattered, Bruce, that you'd put me in the category with Dave Cameron. I don't think that I have the soil chops to evaluate this site. So that's why I made the recommendation of possibly having a third party look at it. But
We lost you, Aaron.
sorry, more than willing to
Is-
give it a shot to try to work something out. I don't necessarily feel like I'm as sharpened a wetland scientist to dispute the wetland boundaries on this one.
So Aaron, if there, I mean, I know the area and I agree there's like a structure that is extremely reminiscent of some kind of basin that looks constructed. If it comes to light that that was some kind of constructed stormwater storage, would that reduce your interest or need for a third party review if there was that kind of explanation to the hydrology of the site?
I'm more than willing to take a look at whatever's available, and also give Dave an opportunity to look at the areas that look so distinctly different this time than when it was originally delineated, and then have another look at it. I think it was a very hot day, so I felt like we were in a real rush. So having a second site visit when it's a little more bearable after he's had a chance to look at it might make me feel a little more comfortable, but that's fine on my end if we want to go that route.
Anything else from commissioners? Okay, I'm sort of inclined to agree with Bruce that maybe we can move forward without the third party with a secondary site visit and maybe some more information about site history. So I guess we're looking to continue this at today. Aaron's queuing us up.
I've got it in front of me.
Okay, and so this will depend on a second site visit, and hopefully confirmation and agreement on the flagging. Is that sufficient for moving forward with this from your perspective? Yeah. Okay, hearing no objections, looking for a motion. Oh, Alex.
I will, as we move to continue, I don't want to imply that we're eliminating the possibility of a third-party review by what goes forward. And I just want to make sure we're not canceling that out, but rather reserve that for a later decision.
Yeah, I think that could be also an outcome of this second site visit. So yeah, I agree.
I'll move to continue the public hearing for DEP number 089-756 to July 9th, 2025 at 8 p.m.
I second.
Andre on the motion, Rachel on the second, Bruce.
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Andre,
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay, thank you and good evening.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're back to GZA. And for the third time. Notice of intent for GZA Geo-Environmental Incorporated on behalf of Archipelago Investments LLC. Wait, before I do this, Aaron, is Kyle here? Yes, okay. GZA Geo-Environmental on behalf of Archipelago Investments LLC and Hampshire College for proposed mixed-use residential development at 0 West Bay Road, map 25B, lot 52, and 0 West Street, map 25B, lot 58. Proposed work includes construction of 3 mixed-use residential structures with associated parking, stormwater remediation, and landscaping, portions of which are located within the buffer zones to bordering vegetated wetlands, DEP number 0890752.
Good evening.
Hi, Kyle. Good evening.
Hi.
Okay.
I see Mark and Steve are open as well. Thank you. So hey, Mark, how are you? Hi, Steve. So
Okay.
if we're all set?
We are all set. If you guys have everyone here, so I'm gonna give it to Aaron for a 5-minute update and then to you and public comment and commissioners.
Yes, so I haven't received any revised materials, but I'm aware that the applicant would like to present a plan, conceptual plan that's just in sort of concept at this point. I just wanted to share with the commission that I did upload some documents to the folder and also to the public folder regarding some notes from a conversation I had with DEP. I've been getting a lot of public comments with questions about the soil remediation. And so I had a conversation with the section chief for the Bureau of Waste Management to get a sense of the requirements for the soil removal or soil remediation on this site. And so that those documents are available for anybody to read, and those might sort of shed some light on what the rules and regulations are relative to former orchard contamination that was caused by normal herbicide and pesticide applications.
Thanks, Erin. Okay, Kyle, so we understand you have a presentation for us tonight.
I do.
All right.
Thank you for your time. I'll try to share the screen here. I just put in a request. Sure. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Again, thank you for your time tonight. Oop, didn't mean to do that. Thank you for your time tonight. This was the plan we discussed at the last meeting. This was our proposed iteration to try to think about moving the Wooner further away from the wetland while keeping the 3 building setup. And we appreciated the comments and the feedback and have been working quite hard to come up with an option to present to you that we think might allow this very important project to move forward. So I'd like to show it to you. Let's see here. That is not what I was looking for. Sorry about that. I believe this one. Here we are. Okay, so I'll start over. This was the original plan that we have submitted, right? And this shows the 3 buildings and the Wooner adjacent to the wetlands and the parking next to the buffer on Lannon Lane. This is what we showed last week, which showed the Wooner moving away from the buffer and began the conversation of remediation, mitigation, and what we'd be doing in 0 to 50 and what we'd be doing in 50 to 100. Took your feedback and have been working. This is just process stuff, but I just wanted to show you guys that we're really trying to come up with something that would allow us to develop the site, would allow Hampshire to realize the value for this site, and would bring as much housing as we can to this important parcel. So what we're looking at here is just some quick sketches that I want to show you through. This is the existing plan. This is the red is the fence. The dark green is the 100-foot buffer. The highlighter yellow is all the parking and walkways such, and the scribbled pink are the buildings. Here's a quick sketch showing how if the Wooner starts to move away from the wetland, if that building 1 starts to move away from the Wooner, what starts to happen to some of the amenity spaces for the outdoor space for the tenants. This is another iteration where the 3 building scheme started to look like a 2 building scheme. And you see all my scribbles and notes and stuff on here. So, but just this is us working through how we could start to come up with something that we think might balance all the competing objectives that are on the site. This was a crazy idea to think about a U-shaped building that would allow for just a portion of that 0 to 50-foot buffer to be impacted and then turn the parking. Doesn't work with grade, doesn't work in a lot of ways. This was another scheme where we started to push the buildings out to the corner, try to do a zig and zag on the Wooner to reduce the amount of impact to the buffer. Tried to move the parking on the Lannon side off off out of the buffer as well. Another one where, again, a zig and zag on the Woonerf. This 2 buildings turned into a T-shaped building, again, trying to preserve the limited space that we have available where we can actually put in underground stormwater that would work. And then we started to look at a single building that was effectively on or near the 75-foot no build around the wetland, the buffer, parking at the corner of Bay and Gould, and then a single building against the buffer on the Lannon side with parking to the east. Here's another iteration where it becomes a little bit more curved, looking at different parking options, starting to think of the 0 to 50-foot buffer a little differently than the 50 to 100-foot buffer based on some of our conversations last week. I'll get through this quick, just a couple sketches to, again, thinking about how we could start to deal with all the competing objectives of the hammerhead and fire department access and planning board requirements and soil remediation, et cetera. And then some sketches on how this could start to work out if we're starting to head in this direction. And then this is a more refined set that starts to show these 2 curved buildings, robust planted 0 to 50-foot buffer, a fence along the wetland, and then pushing the amenity space into the 50 to 100-foot buffer and getting rid of the Woonerf. And here's some additional sketches over that to look at some other options on how the grades work. We have a big long building. If we take those 2 buildings and make them into one, we still have 280 feet height on the Gould and Lannon side and 292. So there's 12-foot grade change across that first floor building. And then here's the plan that we wanted to present tonight. So this is the conceptual plan. So this is from Modus, working with the architects, working with GZA. We're doing a lot of iteration to try to come up with something that we think might work. This is the first floor of the building. This is the second floor of the buildings, and this is the upper floor of the buildings. So going back to the ground floor, what we're looking to do is stay outside of the 0 to 50-foot buffer, curve the building so we have enough room for parking along Gould and Bay that's going to be sufficient. Push the building on Lannon, this building closer to the buffer with parking along West Street. As you can see, this results in fewer units. It's not at the 200 that we were looking for, the 188 or the 140 we've submitted. It's down now below 130. And that's based on the pink being the retail and the green being lobby access. And so as you come up, you would move through the building. We'd have, again, 2 buildings rather than 3, a reduced number of units. And again, we'd be eliminating the Woonerf and pushing the parking, which is not shown on this, but pushing the parking to the Bay Road and the Gould Way area. And then up above, because we're still looking to have 4 stories on both of these buildings, we'd pull back the, and because the ground floor on the east side of this building is at the 280 elevation, and this building's at 292, we'd have 1 floor of residential that goes above, and we'd have a green roof, rooftop amenity facing east, and then 4 stories facing this way. So we would eliminate the drive-through, the Woonerf drive-through. We would push the parking to Bay Road and Gould Way, and we would look to remove the soil in the 0 to 50-foot buffer, replace the soil in the 0 to 50-foot buffer, plant it as a buffer as best we can, and then use as much as we can in the 50 to 100-foot buffer as non-paved amenity space for tenants. We'd like to, in place of the Woonerf, we haven't reviewed this with planning board, obviously, yet. We haven't reviewed this with fire department yet for life safety, but in place of the Woonerf, what we'd like to consider is something like grass pave for fire department access, if that's going to be required. If the fire department wants to retain this, or DPW, or both want to retain the hammerhead and be able to access this building for life safety, there might be some impacts on this unless we can kind of try to pull that building out, still get the parking that we need along Bay Road and Gould, which we may be able to. We just haven't been able to spend enough time on that yet. But it's a very different approach. Obviously, it's a lot of work that it would take for us to shift gears and head in this direction. I think what I was taking from previous conversations with the commission was that it was very difficult to get around the imposition of the WUNR in the buffer. And it was confounding our ability to have a clear conversation about how best to remediate a contaminated site. What we wanted to do tonight was to present this conceptually to the Conservation Commission, see if this approach, which would obviously greatly reduce the impacts on the buffer, would be something that would the commission would think would lead us in the right direction. If so, then we could come back in a couple weeks with more detail on this. And if we were able to do that and still be heading in the right direction, then we would look to go back to planning and see if the planning board also thought favorably of this revised approach. So with that, I know there's a lot of questions about soil remediation and lead arsenic removal and fencing and things like that. And I want to just open that to questions.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
All right, so we have to go to public comment first, and then we'll go back to the commission for questions. So if there's any public comment, please raise your hand.
Michelle, can you
Okay.
handle this? I'm going to put you as co-host,
Sure.
and because I'm going to do the timer.
All right, I have Maria.
Oops.
Okay, so I'm seeing promote to panelists, and I'm not seeing allowed to talk. Is there a reason for that? Oh, there we go. Got it. All right, Maria, go ahead.
Great, Maria Kapicki, South Amherst, 65 Country Corners Road. So, you know, it's kind of hard to react to this in real time. I'm sure the commissioners are experiencing the same thing. Yes, appreciate getting out of the buffer zone, still haven't accomplished that. Don't know if the parking is going to fit into this or not. It's really, I mean, I don't know. I think y'all need to read the, and when I say y'all, I mean, I'm referring to Archipelago, the Mass DEP communications, this whole idea of taking away soil doesn't seem like a runner, and nor is the fencing. So I don't know. I don't know what you guys are going to do with this, but this obviously needs a lot more digesting. It's not a fully formed plan. Yeah, I don't know. Stay out of the buffer zone. That's my big take home here. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. I have Carol.
Hi, I'm Carol McNeary at 115 Spencer Drive. And this is, I think, probably the third time I've had something to say. I just want you to know I've been coming to these meetings for a while. I'm not just a one-trick person. The thing that I continue to worry about is how this development approaches the goal of a village center, which enhances the community. And what bothers me is that I really appreciate the fact that Archipelago is coming up with these different versions of designs, trying to meet their the absolute criteria of not going in beyond the buffers. But the problem has always been the size and scope of this project. So, the goal being to get the most apartments on this difficult site, to basically make the most profit over the long run. And, we've had different things put before us from meeting to meeting. It's not really a wetland. There's arsenic in the soil. It's degrading its site. So it really comes under different regulations. And I think it's still important to look at whether or not this project fits in with the community, the idea that's been not just the apartments, but the environment, how this works best. It's an idea that's gone back for a long time.
Thank you, Carol. Okay. Sorry, Kayla, you ran out of time. So next up is Sherry.
Okay, I'm Sherry Wilson, 4 McIntosh Drive. I'm very glad to see that Archipelago is trying to accommodate the wetlands, which is the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. It does not appear that they are trying to accommodate the community's concerns about size, but that is not the main concern of the Conservation Commission. I really can't respond to very clearly to quick pictures of new proposals. But I'm willing to listen to what Archipelago would like to do in terms of the community and especially in terms of the wetlands and the wildlife and the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sherry. I'm not seeing any more hands, so last call for public comment. Okay. All right, commissioners, questions, comments. Andre.
Thank you, Michelle. Kyle, it looks like you guys have done quite a bit of work trying to find ways to kind of make those pieces of the puzzle fit. I do wonder about the question that Maria Capicchia asked. Or the statement she made. She said, "Stay out of the wetlands." What is it that you can do to stay out of that 100-foot buffer on your curved building proposal there, the one that's on the Bay Road side? Is there some way you can take that curve and make that go on the outside of the 100-foot buffer and still have your building?
Thank you for the question. We've looked at it. I think what starts to happen is the parking gets pushed extremely close to Bay Road. And because we have to fill there in order to make the below ground stormwater work, it's also going to be a retaining wall that then is getting pushed close to the road. And without the Woonerf as the pedestrian walkway from Applewood or Upper Orchard or Rambling Road to come over, then all pedestrian access will go on the sidewalk along Bay Road and down. So I think that what ends up happening is to preserve the buffer, we really start to impose on the street. And it's going to be a balancing act. So I think, as we've shown, it curves in at the very end, gets tight to that buffer, it imposes on the 100-foot buffer. I think we could probably open that up a little bit. The architects are freaking out a little bit about a curved building and cost and ability to build it effectively and all that. So we're trying to maintain a constant curve instead of, kind of chunking it up a bit. I think we could absolutely push it out. I don't know if I can get all the way to the 100. I think we can get, to the 75. And I think some of that's would come back to fire department requirements and how much space do they want. If they still want to come off this hammerhead and try to have access to the south side of the building, how much space would they want between the building and that? So obviously what we're presenting is not fully fleshed out. It's a concept. I don't think I could say, hey, the whole building is going to be outside the 100. I think I can get it, almost, as you could see, if I share my screen again, the vast majority of it's outside the 100, and then it turns in at the end. And if I could show my screen again, I would show you that what we're also trying to preserve is the drive aisle that comes out of Atkins parking. We're trying to line that up so that it works, and so it's not off by a bit and creates some weird. And so to do that, again, that's putting pressure to have the building a little bit closer to the existing hammerhead there. So I think that what we could do is really try to focus our impacts, make them as many temporary as we could on the hammerhead area of that, where obviously there's existing fire hydrants and water lines and curbs and storm drainage and all that stuff, and try to keep as much of our impact as would be needed as close to that little hammerhead as possible, and then get out of that buffer as soon as we could.
Well, I do appreciate your explanation, and I appreciate the efforts in trying to find a way to kind of minimize the impact on the buffer. I do recommend and would look for you to minimize it even more. Do everything you can to get out of that, and after that, you don't have us to worry about. I mean, what you're really doing is you're looking for permission to, in essence, violate without violating the law, right? I mean, well, that's what these types of variances and these types of what you're looking for is permission. So I do appreciate what you're doing. I would look for you to maybe straighten it out, like you're saying, and whatever you can do to minimize encroachment, even on the town's bylaw buffer of 100 feet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andre. I don't see any other commissioner hands. I have some questions. Okay, so I'll go ahead. Thank you for the minimization measures and showing us the efforts that you went to come up with that creatively. I guess I don't know if you did it already, but have you calculated any buffer proportion impacts? 75.
We have not yet. We're still waiting for the updated survey with the new flag locations.
Okay, so no ballparks. I don't know how much those pushed it out. Okay, so there's the 75-foot no build, and then there's the 100-foot, and then we have our 20% and 100-foot buffer. So I think those are metrics to pay attention to when we're talking about impacts. I had a question about within the buffer, the 100-foot, you mentioned a non-paved residential amenity. What is that, or some examples of that?
Well, I on the previous scheme, on the current scheme, obviously the residential outdoor amenity is on the north side of the building, in between the building and Bay Road. And that was the benefit of bringing the Woonerf through. If we're pushing the building out and the parking out to Bay Road, then what we'd be looking for is some place where tenants could be outside, some place where tenants could enjoy the outdoors. There's a place to sit, there's a walking path, there's maybe a pergola, things that are not paved, but things that are occupiable.
Okay.
And I think that, what we're trying to do on this is keep the 0 to 50 as precious as we can, come up with a plan for the lead arsenic remediation, be able to remediate that and replant that, and then work within the 50 to 100 to try to recognize, how we can try to, put all the rest of the puzzle pieces together, which includes outdoor space for the tenants, potential grass pay for fire department, et cetera. So there'd be a couple things that would be trying to, overlap on that south side between fire and tenant amenity.
Thanks. Yeah, and so just to be clear, when you're calculating the impacts, it's not just building and impervious, but it would also be any kind of development, including non-paved residential areas. So just, I guess, keep that one in mind. What else? Yeah, I mean, I guess I think we're probably all looking forward to seeing the updates on the buffer impacts and seeing the buildings out of the 75-foot no build. And I think I'm excited about what you're coming to us with tonight. So I want to hear from other commissioners, because we have an opportunity to give them some guidance right now as we move this forward. Alex, you're muted.
Thank you. I too want to express my appreciation for the creative thinking that you're doing. And I think that's all in the right direction. We're getting a little closer to where we want to be. That's nice. And some of the things, there are things over which we have no jurisdiction, such as how many stories there are. And in your creative thinking of trying to move out of the 100-foot buffer, even in consideration of the 20% allowance, I presume you're going to have further dialogue with the planning board about things you might consider in your new plan. So I'm still keen on not granting the waivers that you requested, but in perfectly willing to entertain future proposals that seem to be getting more and more creative, and I think that's just terrific.
Thanks, Alex. Rachel?
Yeah, thanks. I know we've talked about the remediating the soils, not remediating the soils. I'm curious if there is a way to leave the soils in the buffer zone untouched, to minimize further disturbance to the buffer zone, in these new schemes. And then also curious about, and GZA may want to weigh in on this too, about grass pavers are amazing, but they have to work. And so if groundwater is really high, you might want to look at that approach technically. That may not work with the high groundwater.
Thanks, Rachel. And yeah, and I do want to just reiterate the question about the 50-foot remediation. I think I too had that question, so I just want to pay attention to it. And I think the guidance from DEP was that it wasn't necessary. And I'm sort of with Rachel on whether or not disturbance is better than leaving it as is. But anyway, go ahead, Kyle. Thanks.
So I talked to Aaron about the DEP conversation. I think our consultant and DEP are saying the same thing, so I don't think there's conflict between what's being said. I think that if Applewood has an AUL that's based on cleanup of lead arsenic soil. The Eric Carle Museum has an AUL. They stripped almost the entire site in order to do that. I think DEP said there's a couple options. You can remove soil. You can also encapsulate it and start to put it under parking and kind of make it safe in that way. And we've talked about that, and Mark and Steve know, for years. And we've known about that. And the issue there is that encapsulation requires processes that are difficult to pull off when you have very high groundwater, which we have. So I think in the zero, starting from the wetland boundary out, there's a couple options. We can remove soil, or you can kind of cap it. So Aaron and I talked about, could we bring in a bunch of soil and just put it on top of that? Potentially, but we can't do that in the wetland. And the wetland has lead arsenic in the wetland, and the DEP regs, we're not coming forward saying, hey, we'd really like to put a fence here. We're coming forward saying our understanding of DEP regs are, if you can't remediate the soil, you have to prevent children from getting to it. And the way to do that in a wetland where you can't remove the soil or you can't cover it is to fence it. So we're only proposing that because we understand that to be a requirement. And then our proposed remediation would be to remove the soil from the wetland, as close to the wetland as we could outward, because it's lead arsenic contaminated soil, and that's suboptimal on many fronts. And we wouldn't want to put the investment of this new project and leave contaminated soil next to the project. And I think if we were looking at placing soil on top of that, this buffer is down gradient of the wetland, right? This isn't a situation where our buffer is tilting into the wetland. The wetland is above this buffer. So if we build up soil here, we're creating effectively some very different hydrology in and around that area. So our preferred approach is still to put a fence as close to the wetland as we could to secure that contaminated soil that's in the wetland, and then to remove as much lead arsenic soil as we possibly could outside of that. I don't see a viable option where we, instead of putting the fence next to the wetland, we put the fence 50 feet out or 100 feet out, because that just creates, a massive unused area that is, not a very, it takes up a massive amount of the site and doesn't remediate the lead arsenic soil and doesn't create a place that people can can use and support development on this site. So we'd very much like to continue to pursue remove the soil, bring in new fill and plant it, and then talk with the commission about how we do as much of that as we can, the 0 to 50, and then how to balance that with mitigation from 50 to 100.
Thanks, Kyle. I mean, I think to be clear, we're not looking at the 0 to 50 as usable space as part of the development. We're looking at that at no touch buffer. So it sounds like.
So, yeah,
Okay.
I am too. Sorry to interrupt, but we are too. I just don't want that to be a place that we just leave lead arsenic soil. I'd rather collectively recognize that this is our opportunity to remediate that. And if we did it and put it back, put new soil in and planted it as a buffer, even if there's a fence behind it, it's much improved condition from current state.
Okay. Dave Zomek.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to echo some of the commission's comments, appreciating Kyle and his team coming in with new ideas, essentially a new plan, new concepts, I should say. And I also appreciate the way Kyle is kind of coming to you all and working with Aaron to say, give me feedback. They're working this site and they're working the project. So just wanted to appreciate that and echo some of the supportive comments that I've heard from the commission about moving this forward and coming back in a couple of weeks with a concept that might be more well-developed. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Okay. So it sounds like you don't want to put a fence at the 50-foot and you'd prefer, I guess, design and livability to have that be in the 0, which puts us in the consideration of some temporary impacts in the 0 to 50. And I see that you have a planting plan for that. So I guess that's just something for commissioners to consider. It's not, impervious, but it's going to be an impact to consider. And I do just, as per Alex, what he said, we're still looking at trying to keep this, not looking at a waiver, but looking at within our jurisdiction and our current limits of 20%. So that would include all of the development, including the non-paved residential area. So I'm looking forward to seeing what those final numbers are. And I think we'd more quickly move forward with if they are very close to 20 and under.
So could I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
I understand your purview is 20. I also understand your purview allows for more than 20 if it's a site like this. Is that is there agreement on that?
So I think what you are referring to is whether or not this is a impacted site or a degraded site or redevelopment, which I think we got into last meeting. So per our bylaws, I don't think this would qualify as those. Those would be already built sites, something with a footprint, a redevelopment of a road. And, while this, I agree, is impacted by previous land use and agriculture, I don't think it is specifically covered under those. I mean, we still have discretion to extend the 20%, but I wouldn't personally interpret our bylaws to say that this was a redevelopment site, if that's what you're asking.
Well, what if about severely degraded and that the entire site's covered with contaminated lead arsenic soil?
So the rationale to that would be that the lead arsenic soil is impacting the wetlands and the water quality. I mean, I guess we'd have to tie those things together, and I don't see the direct connection to those things or have evidence to suggest it. But if someone else interprets that differently, go ahead and chime in. I mean, it's degraded in that soil contamination, but as far as wetland function, habitat function, biodiversity, I don't know that those are connected to the arsenic. They could well be. Okay, Aaron's got I mean, it's an argument you could make. I just don't see it right now.
Well, my concern is that we continue to work on this project. We continue to try to come up with something that balances all the competing objectives, and we end up with 35% impact. And we're trying to say, hey, we'd like to get some credit for the work we've done in 0 to 50, and we're way down the road, and we're saying, look, you guys are saying, look, if you're not at 19%, this is a done deal. And if that's the case, it's just going to make, with the existing conditions as they are, with the hammerhead as it is, like somebody's going to have to be out there temporarily fixing that thing. We're going to have to handle fire department. Fire department may come in and say, I want to come off that hammerhead, or I don't like the project. And I'm cautious of going down the road further and getting to a point where we have an untenable position. So that's why I'm asking if the commission thinks that if we continue to try to make something work and we're showing that effort, and the commission says, if you do that and we like what you're doing, we'd be open to considering beyond 20% in the 50 to 100. If not, that'd be really good information that would allow us to decide if we're going to move forward.
Got it, Kyle. Oh, I see some hands up. Okay, I'll let Andre go.
Thank you. Yeah, Kyle, so it seems that what you're kind of asking us is kind of like, let's make a deal kind of thing here. Is that kind of my understanding this? In other words, what I so we're asking you to stay as far out of the 50 as possible. You're what you're asking is whether clearing some of the ground, and I'm asking you whether this is the point or not.
Sure.
Whether clearing some of the ground would be something that could mitigate the encroachment into more than 20% of the 50 to 100 foot buffer. Am I getting that right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to get that right. I can't quite buy that. It just seems to me like you need to clear that up no matter what, because that's what because people are going to be living there, and you're presenting it as if it were something that's being done kind of more of a mitigative type thing for the wetlands issues. And just leave it at that. But I do appreciate what you're trying. I don't see it, and the determination of whether or not that falls that falls as under mitigation, or whether that is acceptable or not, or whether it's a fully degraded site or not. That determination is up to the individual commissioners. If that helps you to clarify it for your purposes as well.
Yep, I appreciate that. And I'm not looking to make a deal. I'm looking to look into the bylaw. Something's written in the bylaw that clearly recognizes that if there are, unique conditions, that the commission has the ability to understand those unique conditions, if they're redevelopment, if they're urban, if it's degraded, and recognize that those conditions in our town that has a lot, the remaining developable land is a lot of it's under your purview, allows projects to move forward. And I'm just trying to say, it seems like you would put that into the bylaw for a reason. And it seems like this site is a very good reason. It's the only BBC site remaining. It's clearly a site that the town has wanted to develop for a very long time. And in terms of removing the lead arsenic as a mitigation measure, the analogy I make is if we buy triple pane expensive windows from Germany for our 47 Olympia project, we get credit from Passive House International. We get credit from LEED. We get credit from Energy Star. We get credit from the building code, and we get credit from the building officials. All of them recognize, don't say, hey, just because you got credit for Passive House, we're not giving you credit for that. They all recognize it benefits each one of them. And our take, and it might have been naive, was that removing contaminated lead arsenic soil was a community benefit, was a benefit to the commission, it's a benefit to the ecosystem, it's a benefit to the environment.
Okay.
And that was our starting point.
And I see that, and it is a benefit to the community and such, but what but that doesn't put back wetlands that are being impacted. So we need to be comparing apples to apples here, not apples to oranges. See, your examples, anyway, I'm just saying it's not working right now, but maybe it will.
Okay, Alex?
Yeah, am I on mute?
Nope, we can hear you.
Okay. So I again want to begin by respectfully saying we appreciate the creativity and all the work that you had the architects do. I think if we continue along those lines, we'll find something that works. But I don't think that there is a demonstrated requirement for your project to go beyond 20% into the 100-foot buffer. That's all a matter of design. So as I mentioned, we don't have any jurisdiction over the height. Other communities do, and if that made a difference to you, I assume you would pursue it. So I am not inclined to grant a waiver for it's without prejudice to your project. We have a number of places where the town has created development zones with a lot of wetlands. And so I'm concerned about the precedent of granting waivers to go beyond the 20%. Frankly, I would like to reduce the 20%. That's not in the works right now. So it doesn't influence my thinking about what I just said. But we have other projects. The town has a report that it expects to have something like 440 units built in the next 4 or 5 years. The number of lots in town for those are marginal. Many of them are marginal. So we're going to have wetland issues all over the place over the next 4 or 5 years. And so I'm not inclined to be granting waivers because they all set precedent for people coming down the road that we're going to have to deal with. So I would encourage you to continue to think, be creative, think out of the box, and what you're doing now, I think it's terrific, and see if we can't get to yes. But I leave the conversation saying that I have a dim view of granting waivers for the 50-foot and the 20%. And I'm going to just probably stay right there.
I appreciate that. Would this be the first project to go beyond 20% as a precedent?
Yeah, I want to talk about that, but for a non-redevelopment project under so it's like 20% is a new number, Erin. So since it was updated in 2022, we have not had a non-redevelopment project go over 20%. We have had redevelopment projects go over 20%. And the next thing I want to say is that I don't think we have a definition of degraded in our bylaws. So that's open for interpretation for the commission. Like I said, you're suggesting lead arsenic is a degraded state. It could be. I guess we haven't clarified that. There's other parts of this parcel that, they're a created stormwater wetland. It's not pristine. I mean, there's levels of interpretation is what I'm saying. Per bylaw. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, early in the presentation, at the end of those many examples, I think you showed us something that was 2 buildings, and I think you said 130 units, which was down by some significant number from whatever the plan was a while back. What happens if you push that even further? 2 buildings down to 100, or would that enable some of these problems to be more easily addressed?
Absolutely. And to just take an extreme example, if we put a single family home on each lot, that would be the easiest. And then between 1 unit and what we've got now is 130, obviously we could, be anywhere in that spectrum.
But just let me augment one little bit, because the discussion so far has been about housing units, but there is retail in it.
Correct. It's just not the driver, obviously. We
Right.
don't have a retail crisis, we got a housing crisis, and that's what we're working towards. So obviously we could make this 70 units, we could make it 60 units. But at that point, it doesn't support the site remediation cost. So it's a bit of a catch-22 in terms, and it absolutely wouldn't support the value that Hampshire is looking to see in the project. So it's a balancing act. Of course, we could make everything smaller and get it away. We're just trying to say, hey, this is the last BBC parcel in South Amherst. This seems like a really good place to do something creative and get as much housing as you can. Obviously, we're shooting for 200 units and it's a 130 at this point. But yeah, if we made it smaller and smaller and smaller, we can, everything becomes a lot easier. It just does less and less to get to the housing goals that our town also has that are going to get worse and worse going forward because there's so little land that's left and so little land that's left that's also zoned for new multifamily and mixed use development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're coming up on 45 minutes here, so we're gonna be looking to give Kyle some more solid guidance before we go. Aaron.
I have my hand up.
Yeah, I think Aaron hasn't talked, so I'm gonna give her a chance.
I'll yield to Alex. I'll just go after him.
Go ahead, Alex.
So Kyle, I just wanted to make a clarification on the need for housing. The state puts out I'll call it a requirement, and if Dave's on, he can correct me if I'm wrong. But the state says that each town has to provide so much affordable housing. And I'm not going to say what the amounts are because I'll probably be wrong. But what I do know is that Amherst has exceeded the amount of affordable housing that the state requires of it. So the mantra that there's a huge need for housing is there is a need for housing, but with regard to affordable housing, Amherst is ahead of what's required of it. And in that regard, I think it's doing very well. So I just wanted to put that out there that we're doing great on some aspects of housing. Sorry,
Okay.
I know that's
Yeah.
outside our jurisdiction.
It's outside, yeah. Okay, I see multiple hands up. I before we go, I want to touch on the mitigation again. Aaron, go. You're muted.
I just wanted to, I feel like Kyle's gotten a lot of feedback. We're pushing 45 minutes for this hearing right now. I just think it might be helpful to let the applicant sort of digest some of the guidance that the commission's given tonight and maybe allow, offline discussions and questions to continue while they continue to rework this plan. I sort of feel like we're restating things that we've already stated. So just my thought.
Dave?
Yeah, again, I'll be brief, Michelle. It is beyond the purview of the commission to really talk about, the number of housing units, built or needed or affordable housing. But I would encourage all commission members, if you're interested, to read the updated housing production plan that the Housing Trust just put out. And in fact, it points to the need for housing in all categories in Amherst, the region, and Massachusetts. So we need more housing in all categories where appropriate. Thanks.
Okay, so Kyle, well, Aaron said something about offline discussions and guidance, and I have had that, and I think that you have been communicated to by the staff regarding mitigation and maybe coming up with some more creative proposals for that. I think I'm not hearing a lot of support from the commissioners about the 0 to 50 foot soil remediation as being considered mitigation. I think we're looking for, wetland function, habitat, biodiversity. And unless there's a really good case that the soil remediation has a big benefit to those things, then I guess I'm not really considering that as a big lift for mitigation. So we can't tell you what to do exactly, but you can come to us with proposals that, you know, may balance some of the variances that you're looking for. If you can't stick to the 20%, obviously it's going to be a lot easier of a time the closer you are to the 20%. But I guess I'm encouraging you to think creatively about that. And certainly you can have further conversations offline about it.
Thank you.
All right, is there any last further guidance from commissioners? Okay, seeing none, I think we're ready to continue this.
I move to continue the public hearing for DEP number 089-70752 to July 9th, 2025 at 7:55 PM.
Second.
Andre in the motion, Bruce on the second. Andre,
Aye.
Bruce,
Bye.
Rachel,
Bye.
Alex,
Aye.
Em and I. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, so I think we've covered all of our business. So if there's any last public comment, please raise your hand. I'll give you the floor. Okay, seeing none, I think we're ready for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Go ahead, Alex.
Rachel,
Second.
you got it. Under the motion, Rachel on the second, Bruce,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Andre,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right, don't forget to look out your window, Erin. Check out those
I'm
butterflies.
gonna go look right now.
Okay, good night,
Okay.
everyone.
Good night.
Hey, guys.